Parenthood was set up to get rid of Black people and Black babies. I'm Rosemarie Havsom. I'm back again to help you take full control of your life by what you choose to put at the end of your fork. So let's get into it. Let's talk about Planned Parenthood. We hear so much about freedom and my body, my choice, and all of the wonderful things that are supposed to come along with feminism and equal rights and all of the wonderful things that come from living in the first world and benefiting from that, because you can make as much as you want if you're a woman. You don't have to be married, you don't have to have children, and you don't have to lead a life where men are in control of what you do.
This ban on funding for Planned Parenthood is so important. You know, Planned Parenthood, founded by Margaret Sanger over 100 years ago for the single purpose of controlling the birth of human beings. Her real motivation was eugenics. She believed that certain races were superior to other races and that problems were genetic in nature. And so, for example, she wanted to obliterate the African American race, considered it inferior. Planned Parenthood is the largest single provider of abortion in America. In 2023, Planned Parenthood alone killed 390,000 innocent children. That's right, murdered them in the womb.
So what has that done? What is the basis of this billion-dollar industry? Billions of dollars are made by Planned Parenthood, either through government funding, which is over $500 million, and the rest in other grants and other ways of fundraising and other donations. So what is Planned Parenthood all about? Well, it began with Margaret Sanger. Now, that name may sound familiar, but what people don't really seem to realize is that Margaret Sanger was a nurse. She was born into an Irish Catholic family in New York, and she was one of 11 siblings. Her mother unfortunately died at the age of 50 after giving birth to 11 live births and suffering 7 miscarriages. She was in poor health due to ongoing pregnancy, and she eventually died of tuberculosis at the age of 50. This had a major impact on Margaret Sanger, who said that this was not the way for women to live. And she took it upon herself as a nurse to travel to Europe to find out about the latest in birth control technologies. She brought that knowledge back to the United States and decided that it was time to offer women a choice. So she opened the first birth control clinic, and the lineups were legendary. Now, it didn't last long because the government came and shut it down, and she was arrested with all of the other workers inside, and she was asked to pay the fine. She refused, and therefore she spent 30 days in jail. And during that time, she spoke to the other inmates and told them about how they could get sexual freedom by using birth control. So that's how it started. But there's a little point that people don't really emphasize as much, and Planned Parenthood has tried to distance itself from it. And that is that Margaret Sanger was a huge eugenics supporter and believer. So eugenics is basically, we want to get rid of people who are not considered to be industrious enough or have the intelligence or usefulness in society. And if they have a disability, then forget it. So the idea was, if you breed selectively, then you can have the most intelligent, the most good looking, the most industrious offspring. Of course, this did not include Black people who were not even considered to be humans. Black people were not even considered human. So it was easy to exclude them from anything that was considered to be, quote unquote, for the people. So if you're not considered to be human, then where do you fall when it comes to eugenics? Obviously, it means that you're not required and you are not the desirable group of people. So Margaret Sanger thought that it was okay to decide who should live and who should die.
Do you believe in sin? When I say believe, I don't mean to believe in committing sin. Do you believe there is such a thing as sin?
Well, I think the greatest sin in the world is bringing children into the world that have disease from their parents, that have no chance in the world to be a human being, practically. Delinquents, prisoners, all sorts of things just marked when they're born. That, to me, is the greatest sin that people can commit.
But sin in the ordinary sense that we regard it, Do you believe or do you not believe?
Well, what would they be?
Do you believe that infidelity is a sin?
Well, I'm not going to specify what I think is sin. I've stated what I think is the worst sin. The
Yes,
greatest sin.
but then you asked me to say what, and I said what, and you refused to answer me?
Yes, I don't know about infidelity. It has so many personalities to it, and what a person's own belief is. I couldn't generalize any of those things as
This was very similar to Hitler's ideas of eugenics as well, and what he played out amongst his own German people even before World War II and the atrocities there during the concentration camps. So Margaret and Hitler had a lot in common. Now, she hid behind the whole thing of helping women gain freedom from sexual drudgery. So excess or many children were considered to be a burden to modern day women. So Margaret Sanger thought that there had to be a better way. So eugenics was the key. Now, she tried to distance herself from the racist implications and the absolutely racist ideas of who should live and who should die, and who was worthy and not worthy of life. And that is something that she tried to distance herself from, but was not very successful. Planned Parenthood is not here for Black women's health. Yes, they quote it and they say, yes, we have all kinds of educational information for women. We have healthcare, sexual healthcare as well. We have preventative healthcare when it comes to their sexual health. That all may be good and well. However, the underlying current is that there is absolute profitability in Black women's abortions. Now, if you think that that's not the case, then look at the statistics of what percentage of abortions are performed on Black women between the ages of 15 and 44. In 2021, when was the last supposedly accurate accounting of all abortions in the United States, it was deemed that Black women accounted for 30% of all abortions. 30%. So what is that saying about Black women? That's saying that Black women are not keeping their children for whatever reason. Now, something happened over the years since the 1920s when Margaret Sanger introduced Planned Parenthood until the 21st century. Something has changed when it comes to Black families. What we've seen the disintegration of the nuclear family. Now, some people say that that's just a US problem. However, amongst Black families and the nuclear family has become so disrupted. The numbers are staggering. That the number of Black babies that are born to single Black women in the United States, some people estimate it to be as high as 70 or 80% of all Black babies are born to Black women who have never been married. So there is still a silver lining to this information, because that means that Black women are not giving up their children. They're not aborting them. But then there's the other side of the issue. And if we're really telling the truth, we have to tell both sides. And the other side of it is that Black women are turning to abortion as a way of either controlling the number of children that they have, or using it as a way of not having the choice or not making the choice to be mothers. So what's happened? During the 1970s into the 1980s, the nuclear family for Black families was very high. We saw that coming out of World War II, where Black families were very positive and they were very abundant. They did things as a unit. They worked together. There were so many benefits to being a Black nuclear family, and a Black family that also believed in generational families as well. So what happened? Well, we saw something happen where some people speculate that it was the CIA that got involved to get Black men out of the homes during the 1960s and 1970s and into the 80s. And specifically, the idea was that shut down all of the industry. So in cities that were dependent on blue collar work, shut down the industry, force Black men out of work, flood the communities with drugs, and then you have the perfect recipe for destroying the nuclear family amongst Black people. So the men go to jail, the women are alone, and the women are then approached by social services democratically run, of course, that then offer Black women money in order to survive and be sustained. So to this day, we have Black women on welfare who have never had a man beyond fathering their children. And then they can live in this sort of gray world between two worlds and two ways of existing. And then you throw in post-slavery trauma, generational traumas, the breakdown of the Black family, the humbling and the humiliation of Black men over time, Black men being the recipients of racist policies that have them behind bars a lot longer than any other group of men who committed similar crimes. Then you have women looking to take care of themselves, and having a lot of children was not a part of it. So it's the perfect storm of set it and forget it when it comes to eugenics, because then you make the very subject of who you were trying to eliminate then start to eliminate themselves.
Here's a question for Black History Month. Why do so many civil rights organizations seem to be more interested in Planned Parenthood's bottom line than rebuilding the Black family? I'm not exaggerating. President Barack Obama is the last national Democrat who spoke explicitly about the importance of marriage, family, and fatherhood as it relates to improved outcomes in the Black community. But now, everyone from HBCU professors to Black preachers seems to think that promoting more abortions in the Black community is a good thing. Even the founders of Black Lives Matter, which claim to care about Black life, are completely on board with abortion, even as they argued for dismantling the nuclear family. Why is that? I think that's a question that's worth exploring. I also think these civil rights organizations and leaders should get back to their roots of fighting for the human dignity of all people. The Black community needs a lot of things. Stronger, intact families is one of them. More death is not.
It's not enough to talk about how we as a people are being put upon and we are the victims of racism, when we ourselves need to take accountability of what we're doing. Truth tellers are never given the respect that they deserve, because they come in different forms. And if people don't like the message, then what's going to happen to the messenger? Planned Parenthood is trying to distance itself from the eugenics start that it had in the United States. As a matter of fact, if you look anywhere on the Planned Parenthood website, you'll see statements that are saying the same thing, that we have nothing to do with Margaret Sanger's racist, specifically anti-Black racist statements and opinions when it came to things like eugenics. The problem with Margaret Sanger and what she started with Planned Parenthood turned into an even bigger issue, where it was supposed to help women gain freedom from abject poverty due to giving birth to large numbers of children. She then tried to pull away from the racist verbiage of it all, even though she had quite very publicly spoken at the Ku Klux Klan Women's Auxiliary. So she's now trying to say, okay, we're trying to move away from that. So in the mid to late 1920s, she partnered with W.E.B. Du Bois. She partnered with Mary Bethune in order to create ways of having Black doctors and Black nurses be in charge of birth control, because of course the fallout was quite severe when people realized that, wait a second, Margaret Sanger is trying to kill people, or she thinks that certain people are not worthy of life because of her eugenics belief, and which are steeped in racist and specifically anti-Black racism. She moved away from that. So she thought that working with W.E.B. Du Bois, she would Mary Bethune, some Black nurses, be in charge of birth control, because of course the fallout was quite severe. Black women, because we never got the benefit of knowledge that could be increased and applied to us. So to this day, Black women and Black women's pain are often overlooked because of racist ideals that permeate through medical school and medical practice. So Margaret Sanger did quite a number on Black women, because she put into place a system that could systematically terminate the next generation of Black babies. It's a very disheartening outlook for Black women and the Black population. Unless we unlearn these racist and anti-Black racist ideals that have been put upon Black women, so that we start to kill ourselves, and don't look at the democratic support for these beliefs, we're going to fall prey to whatever happens to our nation. Black people need to stand up, take accountability, and start accepting the truth for what it is. Let's set aside all of the nonsense that comes around, all of the fluff and the noise that's out there to convince Black people that we're not really seeing what's going on. If we're looking at the reality of what's going on with Planned Parenthood, the reality is that 30% of all of their abortions are made up by Black women aborting their fetuses. This is not a good thing. And we need to look at how we can unlearn the traumas that have been put upon us by anti-Black racism in gynecology, by eugenics, and the whole point of existing in a world that does not like you and has never liked you. But there's something magical about Black people. And when two Black people get together and create the next generation, there is something so powerful that the other folks are threatened by. Look into Planned Parenthood and don't be deceived by the smile that's hiding the rottenness behind it. So there's also the issue of Planned Parenthood and what exactly they're doing with aborted baby parts.
Dr. Deborah Nucatola, Planned Parenthood's Director of Medical Services, an abortion provider discussing how to collect body parts from aborted fetuses over lunch at a California restaurant.
So I'm not going to crush that hard. I'm going to basically crush below, I'm going to crush above, and I'm going to see if I get it all the time.
So what ethicists said to me is, look, if they were giving women abortions and they changed their technique, they changed their practices in order to get the best quality tissue after the abortion, that's problematic.
For example, so I had 8 cases yesterday, and I knew exactly what we needed, and I kind of looked at the list, and I said, all right, this 17-weeker has 8 lambs.
I just want to show the audience, this is what a 17-weeker looks like. This is not a pro-choice argument right now, or a pro-life argument right now, but this is a 17-weeker. And the gruesomeness of her attitude is what has resonated with people in watching this.
I knew which were the cases that were probably more likely to yield what we needed, and I made my decisions according to that too. So it's worth having a huddle at the beginning of the day. And that's what I do.
You know, in negotiations, the person who throws out the figure first is at a loss, right? So,
and if they can do a little better than break even and do so in a way that, you know, seems reasonable, they're happy to do it.
Well, we do know that there's medical and other uses for aborted tissue. And it came to light in an expose several years ago that Planned Parenthood was indeed selling aborted baby body parts to the highest bidder.
If we alter our process and we are able to obtain intact fetal cadavers, it's all just a matter of line items.
Now, to see undercover video of Planned Parenthood doctors talking quite casually over lunch about selling body parts of these aborted fetuses. And it's just amazing to see how absolutely callous these people are when it comes to the fact that it was just a line item, as one of them said, when it came to whether or not they were going to sell body parts, including the liver, the heart, the brain, the lungs, and other tissues. Now, it's also very interesting to account for the fact that baby body parts also have gone into certain medications as well. So keep that in mind when we think about pandemic or anything along those lines. This is not anything that is new, and it's not a secret because it was actually exposed during the pandemic when there was a lot of discussion about medical intervention for the prevention or the control of this virus. So much to unravel with this, but what do you think? Are you a supporter of Planned Parenthood? Do you think it matters? Put it in the comments below and let's talk about it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And don't forget that I too have a YouTube channel, Havsom, which is spelled Hav for Victor, SOM for Mother.